89. 89.
Yes.
Very good, very good. I like the enthusiasm in you and the response the way you are giving it. So straight away we will plunge into waters. See, this act, the most important topics or most important concepts are going to be described. You know, Negotiable Instrument Act came was enforced in the year 1881, 1881, almost around 140 years ago. This act came into force. This takes care of basic banking, including the description of three important negotiable instruments called as promissory note, bill of exchange, and checks. Okay, maybe these days you are not dealing with many checks. Everything is happening through either RTGS or NEFT, and the usage of checks is coming down. But you should also know that there are latest innovations like truncation of checks, CTS, check truncation system, and then the implications of it and how it happens. And also there are something called as e-checks, electronic checks, which are generated when you are using internet banking and all that. So straight away we will be discussing in Negotiable Instrument Act the role and what is meant by the negotiable instruments, what is payment in due course, who is a paying banker, who is a collecting banker, what are the protections available to a paying banker and also a collecting banker, what is meant by crossing, what is an order check, what is a bearer check, and many other important things like section 138 to 142, which deals with bouncing of checks. Maybe when I say that we are also dealing with bouncing of checks, you may get a little surprise. But all said and done, the usage of checks even today is in force, and many customer, either an individual or non-individual, are still comfortable with the checks written and signed by them. Who is a holder, who is a drawer, all these things are going to be discussed in this act, which is called as Negotiable Instruments Act of 1881, also called as NI Act. NI Act. See, we say that holidays are declared for bankers under NI Act, section 25. What is meant by negotiation? Why these instruments are called as negotiable instruments, whether it is a promissory note or a bill of exchange or a check? What is a banker's check? Is there a protection available to a payment of a banker's check too, which is also called as demand draft? Some banks call it as pay order, all these things. Okay, who is a paying banker? See, there are three parties to a check. As the slide goes, I'll also give additional information. Please either write down in your own notes. The best thing is to prepare your own notes, or also read along with me what is in the slide. Or hello, please. 89. We are stuck at 89. Only 11 runs before we complete the century. 89 people are listening to this session today, and wonderful news for all of us. There are three parties to a negotiable instrument: drawer, drawee, payee. I think you are familiar with this, and I don't think there is any banker who does not know the parties involved in a check. Check is a negotiable instrument as per section 6 of Negotiable Instrument Act. There are three negotiable instrument act. There are three negotiable instruments. One is a promissory note, the other is a bill of exchange, and the third one is a check. Check is also a bill of exchange. Check is also a bill of exchange drawn on a banker. The only difference between a bill of exchange and check is that even though both are bill of exchanges, unlike a bill of exchange, check is drawn on a particular banker. When it comes to it, there are three parties to a check: drawer, drawee, payee. Drawer is the one who draws the instrument or who makes the instrument, or in simple terms, an account holder to whose account the amount is going to be debited is called as the drawer. Payee is the person.
The voice is little bit low, sir.
Acha. Okay. Thank you for the feedback. Thank you for the feedback. I'll try to make it a little louder, or I'm coming very close to the microphone. I think that should take care of the audibility. Okay. In addition to the drawer, a payee is the second party to a check, and he's called as the beneficiary. Sometimes they call him as beneficiary, or he's also called as the payee.
Sir, can you tell me again, sir? Drawer, drawee.
Drawer, drawee, payee. These are the three parties to a check. Check is a bill of exchange. Check is defined as per Section 6 of Negotiable Instruments Act 1881. Drawer, now I think you are all clear, is nothing but the account holder to whose account the money is going to be debited. See, there are two words which we can never forget: debit, credit. We always deal either in debit or credit. As bankers, we know only two things: debit and credit, and nothing more than this. Now we have hit 90. Now we have hit 90, another 10, and it's going to make it century. Okay.
You have muted all.
Yes, Imran Khan.
Sir,
You have to mute all.
Hello?
You have to mute all, sir.
Oh, sorry. I'm muting all at regular intervals, but in spite of it, if somebody unmutes himself, you may have to please bear with me. But if there is even a small shrill voice, and if it is not relevant to the class, I'm going to mute again. If you have a particular doubt, you can unmute yourself and stop me and ask me. That's not a problem. Okay, the third most important party to a check is the drawee. Drawee is nothing but the paying bank, or the bank on which a direction is given by the drawer to honor the instrument or to make the payment mentioned in the check. See, this I am describing in more than one way. That's all. Check is nothing but an instruction or a direction by the drawer to a particular bank to make the payment to the person mentioned therein. Simple. Is there any doubt? No doubt. Okay, there are two types of check. One is a bearer check, the other is an order check. Usually we issue bearer checks to our savings bank account holders and draw order checks to our current account holders or cash credit account holders. Bearer check is one which is payable to the bearer. Bearer means the person who is bearing it or the person who is having its possession. This is one thing. Secondly, in contrast to a bearer check, an order check is one which is payable to either the payee or to the order of the payee. Like you have issued a check to me, either I can receive payment or I can say, no, I have received payment, please pay to Suresh. So that means it is my order. I am ordering the drawee bank to pay the amount mentioned in the check to the order of myself. I am now becoming the authority who can order. Like when you go to a restaurant, you order something and the supplier or the bearer has no alternative than to provide masala dosa, idli, vada, whatever you order, he has to bring it. Na? Like that, in a check, the payee gets the authority to order the bank to pay that sum to his order. This is called as order check. Okay, checks are called as negotiable instruments because negotiable means the value, the intrinsic value in the check can be transferred. Negotiation is nothing but transfer from one person to another person. Negotiation is nothing but transferring the value of that check from one person to the other person. Like in your Coco game, where you have that what is that hurdle race, or you have that marathon race, or where you hand over the baton, you run. See, if it is a race for around 400 meters, there will be 4 players, and each player will be running 100 meters. And after finishing the 100th meter, he's going to hand over the baton, that stick in his hand, to the next person who will continue running and hand over the baton to the third person after completing the 200th meter. That is called as transfer. Here in the check, we are transferring not the baton, but the value. Value mentioned in the check is being transferred from another person to the other person. And unlike in a race, this transferring can go on and on and on and on. There is no restriction on the number of times you can transfer. How this transfer takes place? This transfer takes place by endorsement and delivery. These words are very important, and any banker, for that matter, should become comfortable in using such words. Negotiation, transferring, endorsement, delivery, holder in due course, intrinsic value, all these words. If you are comfortable and you are trying to use these words, that means that to that extent you have mastered the Negotiable Instruments Act. That is how anybody can evaluate your depth of knowledge in Negotiable Instruments Act. Okay, endorsement and delivery. Delivery means physically handing over. If I hand over something to you physically, that is called as delivery. I am delivering it, like this Dunzo boy or Swiggy boy with whom you are very, very familiar and comfortable these days, will deliver something to you, isn't it? You order something, he will pick it from somebody and deliver at your doorstep. That means he is handing over that to you. Similarly, when you are negotiating an instrument, you are also delivering that check. You are handing over that check to the other person to whom you want the monies to be collected. This is called as delivery. What is meant by endorsement? Endorsement is nothing but authorizing in writing another person to collect the value. Like if I say, please pay to Suresh, that is my order. That is called as endorsement. Okay, where does endorsement take place? Endorsement takes place on the overleaf, on the back of the check. Like if you can visualize the image of a check, we are not supposed to write anything on the face of it. Only the drawer has the right to sign, to fill in the name of the payee, the amount, date, and all the other things, and give it to the payee. And payee, once he has received the instrument, has an authority or right to transfer the value to another person by endorsement. Endorsement is writing on the back of the instrument the instructions. What will I write? Received payment, please pay to A. A will say, received payment, please pay to B. B will write, please pay to C. So it can go on and on and on and on and on and on. And there is no restriction on the number of times the instrument can get transferred from one person to another person. Like we get transfers during our career, any number of times. Every month, every year, every 6 months, there are officers and staff who get transferred. Similarly, here also.
Sir?
Yes, madam.
Sir, in endorsement, you said the backside will be writing the name to whom the dry bank has to pay the money. So if suppose in case if the drawer is writing a name as Ramu, and Ramu again he can write some person's name, and that can be done, sir.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. If I write Ramu, Ramu will become the holder of that instrument, and Ramu can endorse it into name of Sita. Sita can transfer it to Lakshmana. Lakshmana can transfer it to Bharata. Bharata can transfer it to Dharmaraya. Dharmaraya can transfer it to any number of people.
So on the face of the check payee, some name will be there, no sir? To that person only we will pay, no, not like that.
See, in a bearer check or an order check, the last person in whose favor the endorsement has been made will become the beneficiary. Like if I write, it's like a sequence, it's like a chain. I will write in the name of A will write to B will endorse it to C will transfer it to D will transfer it to Z. Finally, who is the person?
The face of the check, whose name will be there, sir?
Yes, madam.
In face of the check, whose name will be there?
In the face of the check, payee's name will be Prakash. He will be the first person.
Okay.
Prakash will transfer it to Rama. Rama will transfer it to Sita. Sita will transfer it to Bharata. Bharata will transfer it to Duryodhana. Duryodhana will transfer it to Krishna. So many people. It can go on and on and on. And finally, the person whose name is at the end, where it stops, is going to become the beneficiary of that instrument. So there is no restriction on transferability. Secondly, you may wonder, sir, if you are saying so, check is a very small piece of paper. Where is the place? Where is the space for writing so many names? Maximum you can write 4 names. Maximum you can write 5 names. But where is the space for the 6th name? There is a provision to affix a sheet of paper on the back of the instrument, like when we are playing kite flying. pata pata, kite flying during the Sankranti time, we play kites, na, which go in the sky and start dancing. It will have a tile, na, like that. Lots of sheets of paper can be attached to a check, and that is called as allonge. ALONGE. This is another technical word which you should be familiar with. Allonge is a paper which is attached to a check for transferring the title of that check. That's all. I think, Harita, I have answered your question. Good. 93, just 7 short of the classroom hitting, say, century. Wow, what a wonderful scene.
Sir, one more question, sir.
Yes, Balaji.
Sir, just now you have told in case of Prakash, just he can understand somebody else. Just he used to write the backside of the check only, no?
See, first, see, when the check is issued to pay, back of it will be clean. There is no writing, isn't it? It's like a sheet of paper. Nothing is written. So I will write Prakash received payment. Please pay to Suresh.
Sir, but
Suresh,
backside of the check, we can write so many names. No, sir.
any number of, you can write Ramayana, you can write Mahabharata, no problem. That's what I'm trying to tell you. And if this space is not enough, space is not enough. Okay, I'll just show you a illustration. See, this is a check, back of the check. Imagine this is the back of a check. Only this much space is there. So somebody will, Prakash will write to Suresh, please pay to Suresh. Suresh will write to pay to Krishna. Krishna will say pay to Rama. Rama will say pay to Krishna. Krishna number 1. Rama will say pay to Lakshmana. Lakshmana will say Bharata, Shatrugna. Then again 1, A, B, C, D, E, F. Okay, F ka space ho gaya. What to do? I will affix one more sheet of paper. This is called as allonge. This is called as allonge. Then again here F na, F will write to H. H will write to J. So it goes on and goes on and goes on. Again one more sheet of paper. So like this. This is called
This
as,
type of checks is valid, sir?
yes, yes, no doubt about it. Like I'll just give a small example. Have you seen the life of a currency note? Can you imagine the life of a currency note and how many times it gets transferred from one person to another person? Is there a restriction? Currency note. Today morning, I had a 100 rupee note with me. That in the morning, I went to procure milk. And handed it over to the milkman. I am muting everybody. I will give it to milkman. Milkman will give it to the fellow who supplies milk to him. That fellow will remit to bank. Bank fellow will give it to a customer. Customer will give it in a bus. Bus driver will give it in his depot. Depot fellow will give it as a salary to somebody else. That salary fellow will go and buy provisions to his house. Can you make out? Can you track the movement of a currency note? And I am told in our country, a currency note almost changes 100 hands every day. I am not exaggerating. And if it can change hands 100 times a day, imagine 1 year, how many people? You may be lucky. You may be lucky if a note which is held by Pradhan Mantri or Prime Minister yesterday has reached you today. And who knows, tomorrow that same note may be in another corner of the country. Today it was in Jammu and Kashmir, tomorrow it will be in Trivandrum, third day it may go to Gujarat, fourth day it may go to any other place. This is the speed with which currency notes move and nobody can track it. But here only difference is in checks, we can track it. So that is something about an interesting way a check gets transferred and its value gets transferred from one person to another person by endorsement and delivery. Yes, Mr. Ramesh.
Sir.
Yes,
So what is the difference between the draft? What is in the case of demand draft? Can we endorse it any number of times? Draft,
yes.
Demand order, no?
Demand draft
is an order.
Yes, boss. Ramesh, I understood. I think you are the one who is asking me this question. See, demand draft is nothing but a banker's check. That's why in some banks, they call it as banker's check. Some banks call it as pay order. And many banks call it as demand draft. The only difference between an ordinary check and a demand draft is that demand draft is an instrument payable on demand, because you cannot issue a bearer draft. See, there is a concept called as bearer draft. Nobody in this country can issue a bearer draft except Reserve Bank of India. That's why a bearer draft is nothing but a currency note. A currency note, a 100 rupee note or a 500 rupee note, which you are having with you, is called a bearer note. It's called a bearer draft. But nobody is authorized to issue bearer draft except RBI. So all the other drafts which are issued by banks are called as demand drafts. And there is no.
So demand draft we cannot return, sir.
Hello?
Demand draft we can never return.
That's why it is called a draft. It is not a check. It is a draft.
But check we can return even there is no balance.
For the no, there is no balance for the value received. You must have seen in the recital for a demand draft, at the end they will say for value received. Value is already received. There is no question of returning it for insufficient funds. That is the difference between a banker's check or a pay order or a demand draft and a check issued by an ordinary person like you or me. My check may get bounced if there is no balance, but a demand draft cannot get bounced because it's a prepaid instrument. Prepaid instrument means the value is already received. Only after.
But sometimes the demand draft sometimes get returned due to the officer's signature.
No, that is secondary. That is secondary. That we will not talk now. But what I mean to say you or state here is, it's a prepaid instrument value. Like you buy a ticket in bus, conductor will not give you ticket unless you pay money, na?
Yes, sir.
Yes, that is the difference. Bapre, 90 people, it's becoming difficult for me. 2 participants have raised hand. Quickly, come on. If you have any doubt, please make it brief.
One more doubt, sir.
Yes, Moa.
Sir, if endorsement is not done in the backside of the check and attach the sheet of endorsement, then it is acceptable or not?
It is acceptable. There should not be any doubt, because we are not seeing such things on a day-to-day basis. You are all getting a little wonderful, or you are getting a little jittery. How can such a thing happen? But as per law, as per negotiable instrument, there is no restriction on the transferability. There is no like, see, you go to an exam. Please, my dear 91 friends, please listen to me. When you go to an exam, was there a restriction on the number of additional sheets you used to take? I think I have to mute all of you. Please, I am muting everybody because I think it is leading to distraction. But tell me, you just compare a situation when you are writing your 10th standard or graduation exam or some other exam, where was there a restriction on the number of additional sheets you used to get? No, any number of sheets you can get. Only it mattered on your speed of writing. Even if you want 100 additional sheets, the supervisor would have given you, and you would have tied all that and given it to. And there again, there is a box where you have to say number of additional sheets used, 20, 30, 100. Similarly, there is no restriction on the transferability of a check or a demand draft by way of endorsement and delivery. So I am stopping at that. Hello, we'll go for that.
Sir,
Yes, boss.
Sir, one more doubt, sir. Sir, doubt is that the endorsement should be authenticated or it should not be authenticated?
There is no question of authentication. Because we do not know who is the endorser. See, now we are coming to know about 2 more words. Like drawer, drawee. There are 2 words called as endorser, endorsee. Endorser is the one who makes endorsement. Endorsee is the person in whose favor endorsement has been done. Yeah. Acha. Amit Kumar asks me a question. In bearer check, payee can also transfer his instrument to other person. See, there is a famous quote which is very very apt to a banker. What is that? Once a bearer, always a bearer. Is there a need for a bearer check to be endorsed? Fine. If you want to endorse, you endorse it. Otherwise, also, bank is within its rights to making the payment whoever presents that check. Even though there is no endorsement, bank is well within its rights. JAIIB bank is well within its rights to make the payment to anybody who presents the check in the counter, if otherwise it is in order. That's why it is called as once a bearer, always a bearer. Once a bearer, always a bearer.
Bearer check endorsement is not required.
Not required, strictly speaking, not required, because I am fully protected by paying the checks proceeds to anybody who has presented the check to me, only subject to the condition that it is otherwise in order. Date is okay, words and figures is okay, signature of the drawer is tallying, everything. The bank, the payee bank or the JAIIB bank gets protection if it is paid and if it is found otherwise in order. Okay.
What if unlodge has been missed and we bankers don't know that it has been endorsed to somebody else?
See, in a bearer check, even if it is lost and if it is found by a stranger who does not have any right on the value of that check also, the JAIIB bank is protected by making the payment of such check as long as the notice of loss of that check has not been given by the drawer to the bank. If there is no stop payment instruction by the drawer, JAIIB bank is protected. I think I am stretching the logic a little too much. Don't get confused. Let us now confine to the maxim that once a bearer is always a bearer. Okay, I leave the
validity of the check, sir.
Huh?
Sir, validity of the check, sir.
Validity.
Sir, last transfer in the launch, who sir is given, from that date it will be.
No. See, while you are endorsing, you are not mentioning the date. You are not mentioning the date. Even if the date is mentioned, it is irrelevant. Only the date of the check is very, very important for the JAIIB bank. The date of the check, 3 months from the date of the check, is the life of a check. Within that date, if it is presented either on that date or after that date, within 3 months, check will get paid, and the date of endorsement on the back has no relevance. So let us be very clear. It's a very important question. It is not the date of endorsement which is important for the JAIIB bank, but the date of the check, date on which the check is drawn by the drawer is important. So from the date of the check, it's 3 months. Okay, that's the validity of the check. Okay, now I'll quickly come back. I think there are a lot of doubts, like a new washerman. See, there is a saying on our side, a new washerman, Dobi got laundry bolte hai na, aapka kya bolte hai? Laundering, money laundering. That laundry.
Slide is different slide now, sir. What you are showing now is not related to. You are not showing slides, right?
I know, no. I am showing the slide and I was just giving some introduction to the Negotiable Instrument Act. Don't think that I am off the tangent and I am talking something and the slide which is being shown is different.
No, not like.
No, don't think so.
Whether I missed the screen.
I have just started the session, and in fact, I wanted to give you an introduction, and with the way the discussions and the questions are like being thrown at me, I can make out that you have a fair knowledge of the practice of banking. What you may be missing or what you require fine-tuning is something about the theory on which I am coming back. So thank you for again bringing me back to the topic. I know by now that there are a lot of questions, and that's what I was telling you, like a new washerman who is very eager and who wants to know so many things on the very first day itself, or like any of you who is attending a training program and throw questions at the faculty when in the first session itself. I'm very happy, but please keep this enthusiasm till the end and all your questions will be answered. Okay, who is a paying banker? I don't think there is any more explanation required except the word collecting bank. See, now there are two words called as paying bank. Paying bank is nothing but the dry bank who is a party to the check. And now collecting bank is the bank which collects the proceeds on behalf of the payee. If in case payee has an account and he wants to collect the proceeds through his account, but unfortunately it is different from the dry bank, that becomes the collecting bank. Like here in this example, Canara Bank is becoming the collecting bank because dry bank is SBI. So the check or the dryer's bank is SBI, payee's bank is Canara Bank. So that's why payee's bank will become collecting bank. Okay, I don't think any other explanation is required as regards this slide. Now we'll go to section 31. See, no, mostly what we require is a theoretical knowledge about the most important sections in Negotiable Instrument Act. It's an exhaustive act and almost 145 sections are there, amongst which a few are very, very important. Like I told you about the definition of the negotiable instruments, 4, 5, 6.
Model DR.
Who is it? Who is it? Okay, somebody wanted to get to know something about BR Act or what? BR Act is Banking Regulation Act and that's a different act, and now I'm not going to touch upon Banking Regulation Act. It is about NI Act. Okay, now coming back to section 31. What is section 31? I'll just read out, and if there is any doubt or if there are any things which have to be explained to you, I'll just explain to you. Drawee of a check, drawee of a check having sufficient funds of the drawer in his hands, properly applicable to the payment of such check, must pay the check. See, now the responsibility of the drawee bank is being clearly defined in section 31. It says when a check is issued and presented, bank has no alternative than to pay it. It's like must and should. Bank cannot refuse payment. Under what circumstances? When there is enough balance properly applicable. Why? I will give an example for this. Properly applicable means, yes, there is a balance in the account, but that is to be taken care of towards his liability. Okay, today you have another few 10,000 rupees in your SB account, which you are supposed to pay towards your housing loan. And in the meanwhile, if there is a check for 5,000 rupees, can you pay it? Can the drawee bank has to pay it because of section 31 or it can refuse? Yes, because it is not properly applicable and it is marked towards the housing loan. Now you can refuse. Otherwise, if there is a clear balance of 15,000 and if there is a check for 40,000, it has to be paid. This is the obligation of a drawee bank as per section 31. Obligation of drawee bank has been clearly spelled out in section 31. And in default of such payment, if you refuse, if it is called wrongful dishonor, if you default such payment, that means wrongful dishonor, wrongful return of a check must compensate the drawer. इतना जवाबदारी है, इतना जिम्मेदारी बैंक के ऊपर है. If it for a technical reason, if there is a wrongful dishonor, we have to compensate the drawer for any loss or damage caused by such default. This section of NI applies only to bankers. See, NI Act is only to take care of banks. So there is no exaggeration when we say that this 31 applies to bankers only. However, a few things as per section 31 to be kept in mind are sufficient funds, properly available. Properly available means, yes, there is balance in the account, but on that day you have to make a housing loan installment, or you have to pay your education loan installment, or you have to take care of the interest obligation in your CC account, something like that. That means it is not properly. So when it is clear balance, what we call is clear balance, when required to so, when duly required to do so means when it is presented for payment, when the check is presented either over the counter or through the collecting bank, then bank has to pay. And if in case it fails in its duty of payment, it will be forced to compensate the drawer. Clear? 94 people. Is it clear? Shall we go to the next slide? Okay, first day I'll take a little extra time in pegging at the level at which you want, because I do not know the expertise you all have in this aspect of banking. However, if I think that you are comfortably placed, I will start in third gear and I will also go to top gear, so that I will be able to cover all the acts within the 9 hours which are prescribed to me. Okay. See, now the most important sections, at least now you know that section 31 is the obligation of the drawing bank. In addition to which, we also should know a few important sections like section 10, section 85, section 85, this is payment in due course. Section 10 takes care of payment in due course, or section 85 takes care of the responsibility or the protection available to a paying bank. And later on, we will also discuss about section 87, 89, 128 in the coming slides. At least for the time being, I know there are many other important sections like section 131, section 138, and section 25 and all that. Okay, to begin with, at least let us know what is section 10, what is section 85. Most importantly, the protection available to the paying banker, and the other sections like 87, 89, and 128.
If you like our content, do like, share and subscribe.